All right, you guys, welcome to our second day of reviewing quadratics, and now we're going to be focusing on solving quadratics. All right, so your first activity in your assignment is going to be a timed activity of setting quadratics equal to 0. Okay, when you click into it, you're going to click Start, and then your timer starts running, and you want this to equal 0. So you have to pick one of these four that's done it correctly. Well, to be equal to 0, I need to add 39x over here. So it should be 3x squared plus 39x plus 108, which is this one right here. And it just clicks on to the next one. Yes, I would love for you to be able to do this in your head, okay? All right, so if you notice here, all your answer choices are positive 2x squared. So if I add it over, 2x squared plus 14x minus 16. That's this one here. Move on. Now, if you get one wrong, it stops the timer, okay? Switching sides means you switch sides, okay? All right, so this is just a activity to kind of really get you into, you've got to be able to set it equal to 0, okay? And just giving you some practice with that, okay? Your time to beat, I think, yeah, you have 300 seconds, okay, in this activity, okay? Just do the best you can. So let's go right here and jump into solving quadratics by factoring. Okay, all right, so our first example here is x squared minus 48 equals 1. Okay, and I cannot, oops, let me bring up my paper here. I cannot solve this, okay, until it's equal to 0. So that means I cannot engage in a factoring step until I take care of this 1. So I need to subtract 1 from both sides. So that gives me x squared minus 49 equals 0. All right, so it's at this point that I can engage into a factoring step, okay? All right, so this is a difference of squares, okay? So I have even exponents. I can take the square root of 49, and I have a subtraction sign. So x minus 7, x plus 7 equals 0. Okay. Now, whether or not you remember this from last year, okay, this next step is actually optional. Okay. So once you remember the pattern, okay, you are welcome to skip this step. All right. So in order to solve, I have to take each factor, which is what's in parentheses. These are factors. And I have to set them equal to 0. Okay. And I have to solve for x. So I'm going to add 7. So I get x equals 7. I have to subtract 7. So I get x equals negative 7. Okay. And if you're looking at it and you remember what your teacher told you from a previous year, if you look here, it's x minus 7 and the answer was positive 7. So it's the opposite of your values here. Okay, so negative 7, your first answer is 7. If this is a plus 7, your answer is negative 7. Okay, so you are welcome to skip this step if you remember the answers. Okay, so how do I type that in? So you can add a plus right here because you have two answers. You have 7 and negative 7. Okay, or if you type the comma, the second box will automatically appear. Submit my answer. Yes, there you go. All right, let's take a new problem. So I have x squared minus x plus 3 equals 3. Okay, remember I cannot engage into a factoring step until it's equal to 0. So I'm going to subtract 3. So I get x squared minus x, well that equals 0 equals 0. Okay, all right. So for this one, okay, I can factor it. I can use greatest common factor. Okay, so I can take the GCF. All right, and the GCF of these two terms is simply x. So I'm going to divide by x. So that means I have x on the outside, parentheses, and then equals 0. I would subtract my exponent. So 2 minus 1 is 1, so I have x minus, and when I have x over x, you can't just leave it blank, Okay, remember there's a number in front of these. There's an understood 1. Okay, and 1 divided by 1 is simply 1. Okay, all right, so what do I do here? So I can see here my first answer is x equals 1 because I know the opposite of -1. But what about my x that's all alone? Well, if you take the process, it says to set each factor equal to 0. Well, if I take x and set it equal to 0, there's my other answer. So one of my answers is in fact 0. My other answer is 1. Now, if you're thinking, well, how do I know for sure that that's correct? Okay, we'll bring up Desmos and I'll show you. So 0, comma 1. Okay, all right, so let's bring up Desmos really quickly here. So school Desmos graphing calculator. All right, so I'm going to type in x parentheses x minus 1. Okay, and so if you're looking at it, you're saying, how do I know that my answers are correct? Well, remember, I'm looking to see where, okay, it crosses the x-axis. So this is the parabola, and it crosses the x-axis at x equals 0 and x equals 1. Okay, so that's how I know that I've done this problem correctly. All right, submit my answer. Yes. Let's try it again. Okay, Delta Math doesn't like to work at the moment. Okay, so 0, comma 1, submit. There we go. Okay. All right, let's try a new problem, and this will be the last one. Okay, and then you will be left to continue. All right, so x squared minus 8x equals negative 6x. So I have to add 6x to both sides. So I get x squared minus 2x equals 0. All right, so the factoring for this one is simply just a GCF, and the GCF here is x again. So I have x parentheses x minus 2 equals 0. So that's what happens when I remove an x from the answers. So I know my answers now are 0, comma 2. X equals 0 here. The opposite of negative 2 is 2. So 0, comma 2. Submit my answer. Yes. And there we go. Okay. All right. There's no way for me to do hundreds of problems and go through every example that you might encounter. So that's why it's really important that you watch the videos from the day before that go over my review of factoring. Okay. Because that's what's going to help you also get through this assignment. Okay. Good luck, you guys.